Welcome, everybody, to the Legendarium Green Team. Today is the big finale, Robin Hobb's Tawny Man, Fool's Fate, Heart Dose, the big chalupa. And with me today, I have Kyptan
Heyo.
and Sean.
Hello again.
And I am your host, Yetti Beats, and we will try not to cry. Well, I'll try not to cry. I don't know if you guys will cry, but we're going to go through the second half. Last episode, we left off with chapter 21. And essentially, that is Fitz escaping the Pale Woman's domain. And I'm just going to get right into it. Let's pick up with what happens right after. And that is essentially one of the biggest moments in the book, in the series, possibly. And that is Fitz reuniting with Burke. I'll start with you, Kip. Did this moment live up to any hype? Did you expect this to happen at some point in the book? And did it make you emotional?
It made me emotional, but a lot of what happened in this book felt like pieces finally fitting into place, and you knew where they were going to go, but every little one that you set down felt so satisfying as it happened. And in this particular case, I liked how this puzzle piece set in the only way that it could go for an adult Burke, and so contrary to what Tom Badgerlock had feared.
Right. Yeah, that's not how, that's like, you could definitely say that is not how Fitz or Tom would expect his reuniting with Burke to go. He always thought it in a negative, ruining life sense.
Yeah.
So that's what you mean, Kip? That it was like business as usual, more of a positive thing. Burke didn't berate him for lying.
Yeah, it was just one more person to say, "Hey, I get what you did, why you did what you did, but wasn't the healthiest call, wasn't the right call, and now we've lost 15 years that we could have had."
Fitz is just always assuming the worst with everything. And, obviously that reconciliation between him and Burke had some maybe awkward parts, awkward talks, awkward things, but it still was mostly joy and relief and, I'd say happy tears when it happened, running into each other's arms.
Yeah.
I also liked how it showed Burke, it showed his stubbornness for one, that he traveled all the way there somehow, half blind.
Somehow.
Unbelievably. But also just his
Believably.
but also just his just the in totality his fatherhood in one kind of scene is that he would literally cross the world for
oceans and mountains and glaciers.
Right. So I mean, I thought that encapsulated Burke completely. Just that the whole idea of him returning. But for you, Sean, did that choke you up at all? Did you expect Burke and Fitz to reunite at some point? Did you think it would be like this?
It was a very hype scene for me. I was, cheering in my seat as I read it. Definitely a tad emotional as well. I thought that Burke flexing his wit also shortly after reuniting with Fitz was cool too, and Webb marvels at it. So yeah, great scene, very satisfying. Definitely been building towards that for all of Tawny Man.
The whole stuff with when they go back to the tent and he's healing Fitz because Fitz is just manhandled, and Webb is just in awe of Burke. And normally a person would be enjoying getting compliments like that.
Mm-hmm.
And Burke's just like, no, this stuff is garbage. The wit's garbage. And Webb's like, what?
Yeah, finally understanding Webb's name has been a big part of this book, and I enjoyed that.
Wait, how so? What do you mean, Webb's name?
In this book, we see Fitz increase his skill over his wit talent, and we see him expand into the web of life. And Webb's like their most skilled person at seeing that in communities. He's a speaker, and he's like a keystone of the old blood.
Right.
And we get to see Fitz take on some of those abilities.
His name is fitting. I didn't realize that.
Yep.
You're right. He's an actual Webb. Well put. So let's talk about next kind of big thing is that essentially Fitz and Icefire meld minds. Would you call it? They skill with each other, kind of to wake them up.
Yeah.
And he kind of opens up Icefire to the fact that he's not the only dragon, but to do that he needs Nettle to come help him out. And so he asks Nettle, and essentially like Icefire like drags her down into like the pit of skills and like obliterates her.
Well, Icefire's like hopping in and out of death constantly.
Right.
And because he's a dragon, he can't fully die, even though he tries to throw himself into that gulf. And just like Nettle joins him as he's diving. And when he goes into death, Nettle goes along with him. And then we're very lucky that Nettle comes out of death with him.
Because of Thick.
Yeah.
God bless him.
I really like these skilling scenes. They're really cool.
Yeah. It was like cool and horrifying, like to your point. Like it just how all powerful, and like how like the realization when Fitz knew he like made a mistake by bringing Nettle in and just like severely overestimated that what he's dealing with, like with the dragon. Like that does kind of, her writing like makes it hit you pretty fast. Like, oh yeah, this was idiotic when you take a step back and look at it.
It's definitely one of the most intense skilling scenes that we've had in a while.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. And I think I brought this up last episode, and Kip touched on it, but Icefire's kind of suicidal like thoughts throughout it.
Not just kind of.
Yeah, definitely. He literally wanted to die and kill himself. But it reminded me like of Paragon, like both kind of creatures trapped in this body that they can't get out of, so to speak. Right? Like Paragon couldn't kill himself really. He just beached himself somewhere. Same with Icefire. He couldn't really kill himself. He's stuck in the ice.
Yep.
Yeah, so like you said, Thick saves the day because he's the G and essentially like puts back together Nettle and Fitz. And then after that, they essentially like, decide to save Icefire. Is anyone here surprised that Fitz chose that path? Because that's what this was leading to. Either he chooses to save or destroy.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, not surprised at all. But I was happy it happened.
I never believed otherwise.
And what was his reasoning? Because he kind of just saw...
And that's actually one of the annoying things about reading these books is that I already know the titles of some of the sequels.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, that was a big
thing.
Well, exactly.
And,
well,
it ruined like two of the what's going to happen here moments in this book for me.
Mm-hmm.
Being like dragon stuff plus fool stuff.
Yeah.
Fool stuff, definitely. That like, I kind of wish I never, I mean, it's hard to not know the titles of the next books, I guess, but like, I wish I would have read this in real time.
I hate the titles of these books. I hate them.
First of all, they're confusing. I mean, there's so many times where someone said, well, I think in the other trilogy, it's like Assassin's Fate. I'm like, oh, this must be the third book of Tawny Man. Like, oh, nope.
The number of words total in all of the titles is much smaller than the number of titles.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean, hey, no author's perfect, but could have helped us out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
You could. Yeah, it would have been. Well, we'll get to it, but the Fool stuff, I still was on the edge of my seat, but I was like, in the back of my head, I was like, well,
it was believable for a while. Like it develops to the point where like, hold up, like, I don't know. I was like, how much are we going to come back from this? What's it going to look like after?
Right. Right.
For me, it was always how are we going to come back from this?
Yeah, for sure. But how much of the Fool are we going to have left?
Yep.
So yeah, they decide to save Icefire, which is a big hubbub, and essentially let's just get into it from there. They decide to save Icefire, and then pretty much poop hits the fan from that point on. The stone dragon just like bursts up from underneath, and Tintaglia arrives, and we kind of get like this 3-way battle royale between dragons, while everyone on the ground is kind of in mayhem. And this is probably the biggest action set piece of the trilogy so far, right?
Probably.
And it just it ends with, I think, an awesome scene where the stone dragon's about to kill Swift essentially, and Burke uses like all the wit repel he has in his body to like throw him back, even though then he gets hit by the dragon, his tail or something. And Swift shoots a wizardwood arrow into the beast, therefore killing it. Kip, how do you feel about, I'd say, Swift essentially being the hero of this chapter? And if you look at it like just in the context of this world, Swift should be the hero of the story. I mean, he takes down a stone dragon.
Well, it's not allowed to be Tom Badgerlock.
Right.
So, got to be somebody.
But isn't that like...
It's supposed to be dutiful, but got to be somebody.
I think that's why this like series is kind of separate from a lot of fantasy you read, though. Like in a lot of stories, the main character would be the one saving, or essentially,
for sure,
saving something, and he'd have that moment with Burke, which he still does. But I mean, it's actually Burke's biological son doing it. And at the end of the day, Swift and Burke, because Burke eventually dies from this wound. I mean, he's the one who's by his side at the end. Yep. I just found that really interesting that Hobb kind of chose to go in that direction.
The series is all the more compelling to me because of things like that. How Fitz is a catalyst, and he has a lot of action and initiative on things, but also his presence in minor ways is just as important.
It's interesting in this chapter too. Like, there's just like after that happens, he's like wallowing in a pit. Like it's just never done for Fitz, for him wallowing in like, what scene I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And he had Webb again coming through, but just said like, hey, you need to like be there for your father dying. I mean, like it's crazy that someone has to tell him that, but it's I don't know. I just find it interesting. That's why Fitz is like never ending interesting for me, because this dude's like in his mid-30s and he's still kind of, it's not selfish, but he's still kind of wallowing in like the bad things that are happening to him, even though
the things that Fitz feels entitled to and that are ridiculous, and the things that he doesn't feel entitled to that are like bog standard is hilarious. But also funny. Extremely tragic.
Yeah, funny and sad. That's what happens when you have his upbringing, I guess.
Yep.
The chapter was a roller coaster, though. Like, I really felt the dragon's triumph, and I was, like, really excited for them and happy for them. And then, on the flip side, you have, Burke dying. The dragons don't care too much about that, but as readers, there was, at least for me, there's a bit of a dichotomy there. Like, really excited for this, Stone Dragon's dead, but at what cost? But probably the greatest cost there can be. Well, the most worth it that it can be, because, Burke was a big part in saving a very important dragon.
Do you think Burke died too soon? Did he get enough out? Did you have enough, I would say, time spent with Fitz, since he had this big reunion just, a chapter before?
No, he didn't have enough time spent with Fitz. No, absolutely not. But you know what? This is Hobb, so people get tortured, even after they have this big reunion.
I would argue, I mean, it is Hobb, that is definitely true. But I'd argue that's life. I mean, how many people do get that much time, especially when you refuse to talk to them for 15 years?
Oh, I don't know if we can say that's life when he died to a stone dragon.
I guess my point is, I guess it would make, it's not surprising that if you ignore your father for 15 years or pretend you're dead, and you're going to have time cut short with him, and it's just sadly poetic that when he does finally reunite, that it's so short-lived, which I think, I don't know. I guess you could attribute that to Hobb, but
And then you steal his girl.
Well, it's a good segue into what did you think about Burke's final wish for him? And to take care of Molly and the kids.
What do you got, Kip? I'm mulling this over a little bit.
I mean, Burke, how could you? But also, like, it's what he needed.
I think Fitz needed permission.
Or permission? No, he didn't need permission, because even with permission, he still would have run away. He needed obligation.
Yeah.
That does work on Fitz fairly well.
Right.
He hates it and he loves it.
Is this the first time Fitz has been tasked via obligation or responsibility to be happy or do something that will make him happy?
No, because that's what the fool tasks him to do.
And I don't think Burke probably also said it to make him happy, but he also he probably said it out of love for Molly and his kids.
For
that
sure.
He wanted someone to take care of him. So I think Fitz was saying he's not doing this to be happy.
Love for everybody involved, Burke.
Well, Burke. But I think it was more so that Fitz did it because he said he would to his father, and that's why he's doing it. Not because it would make him happy, even though it ideally would. Well, I guess the word is content, as we'll get to. But yeah, I think that's a good way to put it, Kip, is that it was an obligation. It's something that he had to do. Because when he has that confrontation with Molly at the end, or, that we'll get to, it's like he's more pestering because he was told to do it. Or that's part of it, at least. Real quick, before we go on, the stone dragon dying. Did anyone know that Forged could be turned back? Did I miss this completely?
I mean, this is the first time we've seen it.
It
So
makes
that was kind of cool.
sense in the world.
Yeah.
But I wasn't expecting it.
I wasn't super expecting it either, but I do like this the ability to restore things to prior states really took a step up in this world, in this book.
Which is always a dangerous thing.
Yeah, but it makes me hopeful. Like, I wonder if Fitz can fix the stunted dragons if he put his mind to it.
Yeah, that's like the point of the series, right? Like return in a way.
Yeah.
It is kind of sad though. Like all those people that he murdered that were forged theoretically could have been brought back then.
Only if they had the ability to like win a strategic military victory against the Out Islanders instead of just send a bunch of dragons to them.
Anyway, I thought that I didn't see that coming. Just to say, like when Alania's family was actually alive and or came back from life from being forged. I was like, oh,
yeah.
Is there any like forged character that's named or like important to Fitz in any way that would have been reverted? No, right?
I don't think so.
This is later we'll get to, but other than Fitz himself, maybe. Anyway. So quickly we'll touch on. So everyone's going back. The job is done. Another successful little journey thanks to Fitz and company. But Fitz decides he just can't go. He's got to go back for his beloved, who was brutally murdered. So never seen, but that's what he was told. So he decides to stay back, and I thought this was adorable that as he's around a fire, who comes wiggling up but thick, plops down beside him. So he's sticking with him. And as they're staying there, they meet the black man. And
what a name.
Listen, I read that so many times. And I also, this is a tangent in Hobb, but what was his horse's name was My Black. And just a lot of weird names. I mean,
his horse's not name was My Black.
Right. But I don't know. It's me reading my head, My Black, and I was like, I don't know. Kind of threw me off sometimes. The Black Man. Anyway, I will say I did not even have a clue to this guy's backstory when I first read this. Sean, did you have any inkling or?
No. The reveal very much was just like entirely and a complete reveal to me.
So he's a failed white prophet, right?
Right. Yeah. It fits though.
I don't know about failed.
You think he's still in that role?
I think he made a change, and that's why he's black. He made
Mhm.
multiple changes, and that's why he's black.
But isn't there like some internal thing that like, like it passes on or it dissipates and the pale people, the white prophet, I mean, the white prophets can
I think
recognize that.
I think
I mean, it's up
it's
to debate still.
yeah, I think it's very much up for debate as of right now. I think maybe eventually it'll get clarified in later books, who knows. But the way that I took it was that he was a white prophet who made his changes but lost his catalyst.
So you could say the catalyst failed, or
Well,
whatever.
mm, not failed, succeeded, died. Very finally died, but succeeded in at least some changes. Maybe not all the changes he wanted to make, but at least some.
Yeah, it is confusing to me. I'll be honest. So is there
Right.
only one change? There's only one prophet that will change the course entirely of the earth. Like that's Fool, and every other one just does little changes.
I don't think no, I think he was just a previous era's prophet who survived longer than expected.
Because I was under the impression he, at least initially, thought he was the white prophet, and at a certain moment realized that he was not, at least the main one. And that's why he holed up at this spot.
I think he came to a moment of disillusionment about the teachings of the white prophet that he had been taught. Because the pale woman never changed, and she kept her pale skin the whole time.
Mm.
But she was trying to wipe out the Farseer line and wipe out dragons, and she failed at both of those.
Right. And he eventually, I think, realized that. All right. Yeah, I thought that was interesting, though. And it's stuff,
Yep.
even on the reread, I was trying to put together.
So yeah, I think that once you've made a change, you develop the sickness and you molt and you become darker as a white prophet.
Like a big enough change or the change you're supposed to make?
Any jumping of tracks in the way of destiny.
Mm. By the way, I misspoke before. When I was speaking, I was thinking about him being a failed catalyst, but failed white prophet, right?
Yeah.
Well, so are we saying that the Fool never made a change up until
The Fool's made a couple changes because the Fool has gotten sick a couple times.
Oh yeah.
Oh, right. Oh, I see. All right.
Every time the Fool's gotten sick, it has followed
A change.
yeah.
Very observant, Kip. Look at you. It's not your first rodeo in these things, huh?
And we get another example in this book.
Definitely. All right, we're going to start digging into like meat here, and I'm going to definitely need your guys' help through this because the way the magic worked in these next few bits, I was lost, but I think I got it. All right, so very powerful stuff. Fitz goes and finds the Fool's body. His back has been flayed. Finds like the back skin flap hanging around.
That was so disturbing.
That was like legit disturbing.
Mhm.
I had to drink some ginger ale because my stomach was getting nasty. And then he sees the pale woman who I believe has no hands, and she's just like a maniac, kind of rambling at him to kill her. And he actually does not kill her. Instead, he takes Fool's body to a secluded place. I think he takes the Fool back to where the stone dragons were, right? He used the skull portal. Or no, or does he just take him someplace else?
So he finds the Fool and then takes the Fool back to the stone dragons. Yeah.
Like at the end of like Assassin's Quest, that area,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
I thought so. Yeah. Because
Oh,
from there.
that's as soon. Okay, I knew that happened eventually.
Yeah. So I think that's all. This is where this all takes place. So he goes
That
there.
is where it all takes place. Yeah.
Yeah. And we'll just end with he puts on the rooster crown, and stuff starts happening. Let's just put it that way. Kip, give me your first take on what happens when he puts on this crown. Honestly, I've read this book 2 times. I'm still not sure what's going on. I really am not. He hears voices and you
puts on the crown, and the like 6 voices inside the feathers each start talking to him. And then he starts to realize that, well, first he thinks, oh, this is a treasure that the fool would, of course, value, but I don't care.
Right.
And then, oh, it's involuntarily attached itself to my head.
Yeah, that was gnarly. It was like soaking into his head that he
Yep.
couldn't take it off.
And then he came to the realization that perhaps a bit of the fool is still in there, even though he thought that maybe that hope had been dashed previously, but it seems like
Right.
the fool's blood was used to reattach a part of the crown that had fallen off.
Oh, so that's what it is. Because
Yep.
he hears the fool a little in that the rooster crown as well. Like the fool starts
Just
saying
a little bit, just a little bit. Yeah.
Right. And because I was wondering, I was like, because he had that on, how did that switch go on that he could now save the fool with this? It was very confusing for me.
So Fitz used the wit and the skill in combination, which is, one of those things that the skill scroll epigraphs have been warning us is a dark and unnatural combination of powers. And this is probably why. Because it allows you to go into a dead body and prepare it by merging with the life of decomposition, reversing it, using that to return the body to a habitable state, and then he's able to call the fool's soul back into it to re-inhabit it.
Because of the rooster crown, he was able to do that?
I think because of the rooster crown, he was able to lock on to the fool's soul in the skill river.
Gotcha. And they had
and
the skill
bring it
touch
back from there. Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's a lot, and that's awesome you put that together. Because I think he thinks about the time where he did it to Night Eyes, or
Yep.
when when he's done that before
Oh, yeah.
with Night Eyes to a lesser
Yep.
extent, maybe. So I didn't know how that played into it as well. But like you said, I guess it was the skill and the wit which doubled down on everything.
And an interesting concept, how even in death, the information of life is still there. It just needs to be returned. And there's actually a little bit of a corollary in quantum mechanics, where in an isolated system, even after quantum decoherence and addition of entropy, it's been proven now that you can subtract that entropy perfectly and get the original state back.
Wow.
As long as it's in a very small isolated system. But Fitz can do it on a macro scale.
Sean, can we get your thoughts on micro competent? I don't even know the word that Kim said.
Pass. I will say though, I think Hobb did a great job in this whole entire section, basically from a little before this to the end of the book, but especially when she talks about how Fitz is dealing with the fool's body. It was very beautiful and with respect and love. So I thought that the attention to detail and how she wrote Fitz's dealings here was very well done. Can I pose a question?
Oh yeah.
Do we have a gap for a question? It's right around this part, but how do we feel about Fitz sparing the pale woman?
Stupid.
Yeah, I think it's very dumb.
Stupidest thing. I was so ready to yell at him. Oh my god.
I was frustrated.
Oh my god, I was so ready to yell at him, but he's melodramatic and jumps to the weirdest conclusions. And the fool eventually forgave him, but no, stop that, Fitz.
Yeah, I think it's especially dumb.
She almost burned all the skill scrolls.
Yeah. I think getting the fool back makes it especially dumb, because now,
yep,
the fool might have to.
This person who's been torturing you and following you your entire life, you didn't kill them.
You went through all this, and you're still gonna have to deal with that in the back of your mind. So, have fun.
Yeah, I thought the same exact thing. I was like, and Fool said it. It's like, can you imagine you're back and it's like, oh yeah, the person might still be out there. They don't have their hands, but I just let them go. It's like, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
How did she lose her hands? I forget.
They got like cut off by the dragon. Like she got partially
Oh,
pulled in
yeah.
and then
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
That's something at least.
Yeah, it was. I don't know. It was kind of. I wish I could go back and read that chapter because he was so angry that she poisoned the word beloved for them.
Yep.
That I thought it like that kind of anger was just gonna, because it wasn't pity that stopped him. It was just, I don't know if he was in such like a grieving mood that he just.
He
Yeah, I think he
was.
just didn't care
He
about anything
was.
else. Like
He was carrying the fool in his arms.
yeah, like
Yeah.
nothing you can do in that moment would make it even like a fraction. This situation a fraction better.
Yeah, and I guess at that point he didn't know he was going to bring back the. Well, I don't know. He kept saying
No,
he was
he
going to
didn't
bring
know.
it back, but yeah.
He didn't know then.
I will say with that rooster crown, I did think it was cool that it was like the voices in his head were like all chosen. I think they're all chosen by dragons. Like it was kind of like a
Yes.
privilege, which I thought was a cool bit of lore that these people were so special.
They were all dragon simps.
Right. Yeah, and they had good banter between them all. You know, I kind of liked them going at each other, but I thought that was an interesting kind of thing.
Made me scared, honestly, for the world, and made me think a little bit that like the Pale Woman was right.
Mm-hmm. You can definitely think that, at least partly. It's interesting.
Just a little bit.
Listen, we're all here in the real world reading this book. If I was part of the Six Duchies, I'd be like, no way am I letting dragons come back into this place. Hey, no way. That's some scary stuff. If I
Even
lived
if
in,
they saved you, they saved the Six Duchies.
They seem terrible.
yes.
But those weren't real dragons. Those were fake dragons.
Yeah. If I was in
Right.
Bingtown, and I guess, Tintaglia saved them, but if I saw what she could do to those Chalcedons, I'd be like, I don't know if I want a bunch of these guys around. Let's get to my favorite part of the book, I think. And it's essentially now that the fool is back and not totally back. I will. Yeah. All right. Let's get to this part. So they go back to Girl on a Dragon, and kind of a gift that Fool gives Fitz. I don't know if it's a gift, but the Fool takes the pain that Fitz put into Girl on a Dragon at the end of Assassin's Quest and takes that pain into himself and is overwhelmed by that pain and said, please, Fitz, take this from me. This is horrible. All the pain and stuff he put in, and gives it back to Fitz.
Gives it back to Fitz how?
Via a smooch on the mouth. Nice little kiss. And that's how they bring it
Little
back.
kiss. Little kiss.
There's tongue.
Well, I shouldn't get descriptive. It could be. Let your imagination go. But yeah. And they kiss and swaps over. And this was like, I would say for me, this is what took this book to like another level for me. Not only, I guess, the kiss, but more so Fitz essentially finding out that like Fitz has been living his life essentially like half forged since the end of the third book.
It explains so much.
So much. It like it's like a puzzle that everything goes like together.
Yep.
That why he's not. Well, it reminded me of like, I've never been on antidepressants, but like what I've heard from some people where you don't get high or low, you're just always at that even keel space. And that felt like Fitz to me this whole time. He never had those highs or lows, for better or worse, because he gave it all away.
Yeah.
That includes
emotional flattening.
Yes. It includes him getting, tortured in the first trilogy, the Molly Burke stuff, the stuff with his mom that he totally hid from himself, the pain of that. And it all just comes going right back into him in a forceful way. And I don't know. Any thoughts on just that moment? And, did you notice, did that make you, like when I say sad, like this made me happy in a weird way. This made me happy.
I don't love the idea that storing parts of your memories in Skillstone like irretrievably makes you a worse or like less complete person.
Oh yeah.
Why?
Because I do think that there are extremities of pain that would be better erased. Like
Mhm.
Sure, you shouldn't just put every uncomfortable or painful experience like under lock and key in some skill stone. But if you were subject to a truly devastating trauma that like is out of the ordinary, is something that impacts your ability to move forward, which apparently this series has issues with that as a concept. But like,
Would you consider that the closest I'd think for Fitz would be him getting tortured in
tortured,
the
yeah.
So you don't think he should have that memory back? You think that should just be erased from his memory in general?
I think it should be consequence free for him to remove that from his memory.
There's a good Malzahn scene that deals with the same thing. Fun fact, but
There's a lot of tortured people in Malazan. Yep.
true.
So let me pose this question, and we brought it up before. I was waiting until Kip got to this section to read it, and if we ever have Hobb on the podcast, I'm bringing this
Oh
up.
man.
So in this section, she is saying that Fitz needs to take that pain back. That it's that is important for him to have to move forward with his life for everything. But in the previous trilogy we just read, the live ships. Do you know where I'm going with this?
Yeah, I do.
She writes that Althea has to give that pain to Paragon, and that's the decision to make. I don't know if she's making a statement, but why in one book is it okay to give that pain and never have it back, but in this one,
I don't think that she said it was okay in live ships. I think it was portrayed as a decision that would have consequences unless it was reversed near her death.
I don't remember how it was portrayed, but I know that I didn't like that for Althea's character. Um, so that can be objectively true for me, I suppose, and I can just live with that. But yeah, I don't know what kind of statement Hobbs trying to make between the two. It would be a good question for her.
a character to character thing, or like, because I remember Althea's on the deck with Paragon at it's like raining and stuff late at night, and Paragon like implores her to give him his pain.
Yeah, for me, it came off as a moment of character weakness and a repetition of mistakes.
And that's where we leave her.
Yep.
No, that's, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, maybe she'll write another follow-up trilogy for live shows. But I did think that was interesting that it's like two totally different sides of the coin in
Yeah.
that sense.
I think I remember talking about that with you in the Discord at some point.
I want to know
Um,
what happens to people who give up their memories of music and put that in skill stone. What's the consequence on your soul there?
You think
Like,
people are
if I can't remember like hunky dory, like is that gonna make my soul go away?
you think people are just putting all types of like just awkward moments in their life that they wish they get when they waved to someone but they weren't waving back at them? Like, I get that in the dragon.
I want to know what the moral impact of each type of memory storage is. Like, if a cooking recipe is that?
Right. Yeah, I mean it opens up a lot of possibilities. We just know the worst of the worst.
We
need
come
to
across all
rewatch
of
it.
these archives. Like, are those made by people who are like near death? What was the cultural practice and like stigma of doing this in the time of the Elderlings?
Redacted, but
Yeah.
Right. I did love that Shade was like, you need to go back and like get all of those.
yeah,
Movies
it's
you
a man of
can.
business.
Yeah, and she did ruin the scrolls. She did like
Yeah,
pour
feels
oil
bad.
all over them.
Gosh, she's the worst. So petty. I of course love this scene. I think it works on like so many levels for Fitz's character and as a reader just being very satisfying. One like partly subtextual thing partly subtextual way in which I think it works is how during a lot of Farseer, Fitz like really berates the Forged and like is scared of them, hates them even, and it's a bit ironic because he becomes at least partly Forged himself, and he's also writing
Right.
all of Farseer, and after that from I guess from his non-forged. Well, no, he writes Farseer while forged, I suppose, right?
I'm so out on when he wrote stuff, like in the journals of it, like when he's
I think
making the
he
history
wrote-
of the world.
I think, yeah, it must.
I think all of that stuff is from post
Earl,
unforging.
Even the Farseer stuff? Because I mean, he was like at his cabin for a while. I thought maybe he did some there. Because at the end of
I,
Assassin's Quest, doesn't he mention
I
like starting to write?
I think that like those are considered unpublished first drafts, and they're not epigraph worthy.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
The writing is drastically different in that. No
He never
personality.
he never published anything until he was back at Buck.
Yeah, that probably makes sense because people didn't know he was alive.
Yep.
So anything else we want to get off in this section? I have one more thing, but anything else you guys want to talk about? Just the Fool coming back?
Yeah, I have something about the Fool within this section.
I do too, yeah.
You want to start?
I was just going to bring up the existential crisis Fool kind of reaches with himself.
Yeah, same.
The fact that they expected to die, and the fact that they have to come back and live their life and just not know what to do at all, really kind of mentally just see what that does to them is it's just, I think lesser authors wouldn't focus on that, and the fact that she does is awesome.
The shoe's on the other foot for once.
Yeah, totally. He's kind of living like a real person.
Well, living like Fitz. Having survived a tragedy that was supposed to kill them and not knowing how to move forward. Of course, the Fool figures out how to move forward within like a few weeks. But
yeah, my main point was just it's going to be interesting to see how the character of the Fool proceeds from here.
Yeah, I mean, the Fool says he wants to go back with Pricktop to back their hometown, just called like Cessus or something, starts with a C, and kind of go back to where they both grew up. But, I don't know what happens in the next trilogy, the final trilogy. But it just, I just to come back from death and not like know what you're supposed to do with your life is just such a vital and scary thing. And I thought she really wrote that well with the Fool, where you just hadn't seen the Fool like that. Unsure, I guess would be, the Fool's always been sure on what they wanted to do, even if it was dying. Right. Agreed.
I do have one more thing actually on Fitz for this part. I think one of the more tragic aspects of at least the entire series up to this point, or one of the more tragic truths, is that Burke wasn't able to see Fitz after he became whole again.
That is sad.
Yeah. That's it. That's my comment.
I think there's a moment in here where we see that Fitz actually learned a lesson from Golden Fool, where he learned to not see things that can't be unseen, and specifically regarding the details of torture that had been done to the Fool. The Pale Woman tried to taunt him with what she had done to the Fool's body physically. And Fitz ignored that taunt, didn't examine the Fool's body to figure out what had happened, but merely just merely went into the Fool's body and healed what had decayed.
Yeah. I like that point.
And so never saw a great deal of what had happened to the Fool.
Mm-hmm.
Kept the Fool covered and wrapped pretty much the whole time.
Right.
As much as possible.
Still thinking of your point where it said, yeah, the Fool literally went through exactly what Fitz went through, and has that whole kind of traumatic type of thing.
Oh yeah. Which I think is good for the Fool.
Right. Yeah, the Fool
on a certain level, I think the Fool will eventually appreciate that.
Yeah, the Fool felt like he dealt with everything much better than Fitz ever did. Just really better.
It's not his first torture.
I guess not. All right, I'm going to try to jumble some of these. So essentially, Fitz is, I'll first say Fool says you got to go back to Buck, and I thought it was really cool that Fitz is like, yeah, I know. Immediately you could see that Fitz is kind of immediately wants to get back to his life. It's just kind of the switch has been turned on for him. He doesn't say bragging. He's like, yeah, of course. What else would I do? It's like old Fitz would never kind of had that realization.
Never. Yeah.
So I thought that was really sweet. So he uses the skill pillar to go back with Thick. Pricktop tells him don't use that too much. Obviously, he does not listen. Gotta throw that in there for later. And he goes back. He meets Ketrigan, and he kind of catches her up on everything. And then essentially, I guess the big part of this is he's going to the steam rooms. Got to get a sweat on, a little shave, and everything. And when he walks out, who's standing there waiting for him but Nettle? And I don't know if I got emotional because I just relate to this at all, but I was pretty moved with just kind of the shock, the awkwardness of their first meet. It was kind of endearing how they went back and forth, and he's like, "Can we just start over? This is really not going how I expected it." And it got smoother from there. But I will say, did you like how? Were you surprised? I didn't think about this. Were you surprised how she thought like he would be kind of on her level as either a peer or someone that she could bond with or connect with, not essentially romantically, but she had this idea of him, and it wasn't like this older fatherly figure.
No, it was the wolf.
But also, like, she made it clear that it was like more. She didn't think he'd be. She thought he would be around her age. I feel like,
Yeah.
and someone that she, if not
Emotionally, he is.
that is true.
Before he even sees her, they have like one last skilling, and I love the complication of how Nettle's a bit jealous that Fitz is like predominantly would be friends with Molly over her.
Yes.
Like his focus is still on Molly in that relationship in a way, or is like
Right.
that. Like that's what he's returning to.
Right. And of course, to us, we're like, duh, of course, he's like obsessed with Molly. But to her, obviously, it's not clear.
Yeah,
She wasn't expecting to meet a father.
She didn't.
Yeah.
She was like, "I'm not the main character."
Yeah, she didn't think she'd meet a father because she had a father. Burke was her father. And up to this point, I don't think they like it was fun wording it in like the earlier chapters and stuff when they'd skill together. And she's like, "Oh, my father's going to kill a dragon." And to Fitz, he's like, "Oh, someone told her that I'm her father." He's like, "All right, I guess she knows now. It is what it is." But really, she's like, "No, Burke's going to."
Yeah.
She was talking about Burke this whole time. So she still didn't know that her biological father was Fitz. So I thought that was really inventive or interesting the way she wrote that.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know if she waits for the prince to get out of the baths as well.
I love that scene where she just and he's like, how'd you know I would be the one? She's like, well, I saw the way he looked at me with shock. I know when you came out. Fitz can't hide his dumb face look.
He is one of the least competent assassins on occasion.
That'd be such a good scene if this ever becomes a TV show. Just like, oh my God, Nell's there. God,
you think this would ever become a TV show?
HBO,
No.
Please. It'd be such a hit.
No way.
They could do it.
I have no faith they would ever do this.
No faith.
These
they could
books.
do it so well. I think it'd be great.
Eridandus said it would have to be like the creators of like Mad Men because they kind of get the character motivations, but I don't know. I can't see. I feel like people would expect Game of Thrones and they'd be like, "What is this pouting child?" But I would love it. I'd watch.
People love Succession. They could love this as long as they know ahead of time it's not super action packed.
Right. So they have their moment together, which is sweet and unresolved a bit. There's still friction there. I'll bring up quickly. I feel like we should bring this point up. So he goes back to Ketrigan, and he's kind of a link because Chade and Dutiful aren't back yet. So he's a go-between between her and Chade. And I thought this was very interesting that essentially Fitz finally kind of asserts his dominance in a sense with Chade and just in general about who he is and making decisions as essentially the head farseer.
As king.
Baby. King.
As king. As king, but with like Kavitz.
Shadow King.
Yes. I didn't expect that at all. Like
when he
got his stuff back, I was like, all right, I knew he'd eventually go up to Molly, with the kids, and I knew there was things patience, but the fact that he would take ownership of who and what he is, I never thought that would happen.
He is whole again.
Yeah.
I've started wondering if the voice in the skill stream is his mother.
Oh, that'd be crazy.
That's our next stop. Let's get into it. Just right. So he goes back into the skill pillar, sees the Fool again. They have a nice goodbye. Fool's like, listen, we're going our separate ways. It's just how it has to be. And we can talk more about that. But he gets lost going back in the skill pillar. And you think his mom is the one that saved him?
It's a thought.
I listened back to our last episode. I don't know what it is. I don't think it definitely wasn't Tintaglia, but I don't know if it's a dragon or an elderling or what. I guess maybe people that live in the skill, I think we brought up.
Yeah, people can live in the skill stream or whatever. Someone there.
I think my most likely decision is still it's an ancient dragon that has long since like ascended into the skill.
Has it been the same one every time? It's very loving.
So. I think so.
This very nurturing feeling every time he saves her, and I guess it is because it recognizes Fitz every time. Like you again. I know.
Stop killing yourself.
Always bumbling.
By the way, the King Fitz thing I should mention was like one of the more hype moments in the series for me. Like I've been waiting for like the words King Fitz to be next to each other. And I know this is like not really official yet, but I was like, wow. I've been waiting for that. He has it in him. He deserves
I was hyped because the way she wrote it, like the dawning realization with Chade, where he kind of like stops a beat and he's like, okay. And like that was real. And he had like a sense of pride Chade did in his voice. I was like, oh, I'm gonna cry right now. This is but again, I guess I still don't totally know how it's gonna function because Dutiful's still on the throne, but they got to get okay from Fitz, who's hanging out at Burke's place now forever. But
sorry, back to the skill players.
No, we can jump back. I wasn't done with that. I wanted to bring up that Chade point because the conversation was so well done. I mean, for it to be like that, where they're going back and forth and him kind of ending it, and it's like, and it was like firm and like the way Fitz did it. Like, hey, this is what's up. It's like, oh man, Fitz, ooh, giving me goosebumps, my friend. Can we go back to the Fool saying he doesn't want to see Fitz again, or that it's best for them not to see each other?
So the Fool didn't fully process their life in just a couple weeks. Come on. The Fool is afraid of screwing things up, but now it's their turn to try and take what they want.
I might butcher this, but I saw someone mirror it to kind of with Night Eyes, where it's like when Night Eyes first left his pack to join with Fitz, he was kind of sacrificing that life and going with Fitz. And this is a different way where kind of the Fool is choosing to go his own way so Fitz can be happy. And it was kind of a weird mirroring of each other, even though sadder. But that Fitz wouldn't be able to live his life.
Not necessarily for Fitz. I think it is for himself.
For Fool.
Yeah. Because Fitz, as he stated, never wanted the Fool in that way.
No, but...
And the Fool has an admirable goal at the moment to try and prevent what happened to them from happening to any more kids.
Oh man, before we got on, I couldn't find the freaking quote, but he says something at the end of that chapter when they're talking about that. And I think the Fool says like, it wouldn't be wise for me to, for us to be together. And do you remember, and then in another scene when it comes back, he leaves gifts for Fitz. Do you remember this?
The Fool's never been wise.
Yes. That is in the poem he gives him. I've never been a wise man. Or I've never been wise. Essentially saying that they're probably going to see each other again.
Yes.
I love that moment.
I love it too.
That moment. It was so good. It too. I was like getting goosebumps. Like, oh my God. I mean, again, this was kind of spoiled because I know the next trilogy, but.
And what artist wouldn't cut into their soul to make a beautiful piece of art?
Exactly. Gave him that 3-headed little statue, him, Night Eyes. Fool.
Yep.
Beautiful.
Memories included.
Art before, like when the Fool was in Bingtown area.
It's almost like there's a prophecy.
Yeah, like they're going to have to change the world again, and then they'll return to Fitz.
Jinna's prophecy this time.
Do they have to? Jenna's prophecy. Wouldn't I guess? All right, we gotta. I just want to see what we have. Coterie. All right, yeah.
How much
After
more?
so I'll bring this up now because really, after this is just Molly stuff. So, is this a good ending? Like, good ending for their story? Like, when I finished this, I
No.
was like, why is there a second trilogy? Why is there another trilogy with the Fool and Fitz?
I said I almost wished it was the end of the story because Fitz is truly happy,
Content.
at least content. Yeah, content. Well, content. Which is the happiest he's ever been, and stuff is tied up pretty neatly. It could have ended here, but like I'm really interested in why there's going to be another trilogy. Like, what's going to go wrong? What are they going to have to do? What are they going to have to change?
It could have ended here if like the last Molly scene hadn't been in the book.
Hold it. All right. Well, here we go.
Because like there's the because you see that like they need to work on their relationship and like
No, because we get like a rapid time skip and an epilogue, and it basically just like skips through like the whole or a very large portion of time that fits with Molly, possibly all of it.
This is like 30 years, it feels like. All
Yeah.
right, let's get into it. So, Molly, that's all I'm going to say. So, Molly, I don't know how to recap this. Essentially, he just pesters her a bit to get back together or slowly, even though Patience says take it slow and he bungles it and tries to dive right into it. But eventually he kind of he sends us, he sends someone down back and forth to where she lives, running errands if he needs any help. And eventually she says, hey, why don't you start coming? And he starts coming and helping out with Burke's kids. And slowly they start to rekindle their relationship and feelings, leading to them kind of bumping uglies in like a thorn bush or something off one of the over a hill or something. And yeah, I guess eventually they become a couple again. And after that, like Kip said, this epilogue that like just shoots like a rocket throughout all these life events. Them getting married, Jade crying at their wedding, yeah, obviously dutiful, and Alania getting married, Patience dying. All these things is just zooming right past. And I don't know, I don't even know what to say first, but just your general thoughts on this whole Molly. Were you happy? Did you like that Molly and Fitz ended up together?
It felt like it was rushing through things in order to set up the next set of books.
I forgot that Patience dies. I entirely forgot.
Like we're wrapping up a number of threads, and then we can start afresh with a trimmed cast list.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think that. I mean, I guess because we knew there were books, but all I kept thinking was, why do we have these other books? Like we're getting like it felt to me different. Did you wish you had this after Live Ships? Because remember we talked about that where that was just abruptly kind of ended. Whereas this, I felt like it was quick, but at least it's giving us resolutions to things.
I also thought that the resolution to Live Ships was rushed in that epilogue.
Well, it was, but we don't get any. It's rushed, but we don't get any 20 years. We don't know how anything happens. At least this one we do.
I think that even though this one is rushed, it works better than Live Ships.
Yeah.
But it really did feel to me like it was trying to wrap up Fitz and Molly in a nice bow so that we don't even question if by the next book series that's already done and over and there's no more.
Kind of like that though. Like, would you really want to see him re-court Molly? Let's just have the relationship.
I wouldn't.
established.
No.
Can we have a Molly conversation? I just never thought she got enough. I don't know how to say this. She wasn't a POV character, obviously, in the first trilogy.
He barely appeared.
Yeah, so it was just hard to have this connection that Fitz does, like as a reader that we have with Molly. Like I was more, and I'm not totally saying I don't really care who he's like the biggest reason why I was happy at the end of this book is because of the last line in this book. It's literally Fitz saying, "I am content," and that's hey, if Fitz is content, that's like that makes me cry. But in general, about him getting back with Molly, I'm like, if that's what makes you happy, I guess. But I have like, I'm apathetic towards her.
Oh, I'm with you.
She comes across as generic, exasperated mother.
Which is fair. There's like 7 kids.
Yeah. But like, I don't really. She had moments in the first trilogy where we got some character establishment. Not a lot, honestly. I never thought there was a whole ton there.
Yeah.
But in this one, very little.
Would she make your, let me put it this way. In this trilogy, would she make your top 10 like Fitz plus other character moments in
No,
this book?
of course not.
No.
Patience is
not.
ahead of her. That reuniting with Patience. That's one of the best things that I know we didn't talk about, but that's one of the best reuniting scenes in the book.
And Patience is made. Jenny?
Yeah. No. I don't know. Something. Yeah, but her friend Lacey. Yeah, those two. I mean, incredible. Like that was so moving. I mean, that scene between each other, finding each other, like fainting at the gardens, and then her just kind of chiding Fitz even as an adult.
I have a question about Lacey and Patience. Are they an asexual spectrum couple?
I thought they were some sort of couple. I don't know what to tell you. I don't. I didn't even think asexual, but I mean, maybe because they're older. But
like asexual, aromantic, like somewhere on that spectrum. Like they really seemed like more than just good friends.
Yeah, definitely. I'd 100%.
They just struck me as like 2 type A people that work well together, and they recognize that. But who knows?
I mean, they sleep in the same bed.
that was my thing.
I forgot about that detail.
That's what I was like. Hey. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with that, but like, I love my partner, but if sometimes sleeping in your own bed is fantastic. I mean, not having another body in there. So they're actively still sleeping in the same bed. I mean, that's something's there. I don't know what to tell you.
Especially if one of them snores. Like,
yeah.
I think Lacey snores.
That's like my point with Molly, though. It's like, and it's no fault of hers. Like, I don't want to be like a Molly basher, but she's just didn't get the attention in these books other than like she was to be an infatuation for Fitz. Like there's more emotion between Fitz and Thick. Like when Thick said "I love you" in this book.
Oh yeah, much better.
Better than anything in this epilogue and this speed through. And again, so it's such a weird. It's such a weird way to end on it. It was more emotional in the sense that he's doing, again, that going back to what Burke's last wish for him was, not so much that he's getting back to Molly, but that he's involving himself in Burke's family's life and now making them his family and moving on with his life and becoming just part of a family, and then being content with that, I guess. I think it's specific she used the word content and not like thrilled, happy, or I don't know, maybe sad. I don't know, maybe got sick of it.
Learn how to be more than content.
Right, but that's a step. This is a step for Fitz. I mean, even him actively saying he's content is something that he's not wanting for anything or not regret. Like there's no regret. Like he's content with where he's at the moment, and that's a lot of people. I feel like could only ask for that.
To your Molly point, though, I do hope that the Fitz and the Fool trilogy does a lot of legwork for Molly's character. Otherwise, I'd be disappointed. There's a lot of space for it. They're living together now, so she'll be around.
It better.
It needs. I mean, what else? Honestly, what else could it be other than I guess Fitz and Fool kind of reuniting?
She dies, page 3. I'm sure.
Great. But I'm pretty sure, I'm not totally up to the Hobb fan base stuff, but I don't think this is like an ideal match for. I think there's like divisiveness between this ending. I think. I wish I researched it more, but I don't think everyone loves this ending that him and Molly get back together. Where I don't know. I liked it, I guess.
A choice.
Puppy love.
It's interesting. It honestly caught me off guard a bit. I was like, wow, this is actually happening.
Yeah, this is actually happening. It's not just like a dream that Fitz has
Yeah.
with no basis in reality. No, apparently.
I just liked it because Fitz apparently liked it. Like I came to that point in my life where I'm like, if Fitz is saying he wants this, well, who am I to not?
Yeah, it's like your friend that has that partner that, like, you're not really thrilled on, but it's like, if it makes you happy, like, yeah, she can come hang out, it's fine.
And you're saying that about Fitz, right?
Yeah.
Because there's like not red flags, but like I think the fool brought it up in a sense where he said that he had to go his own way because how would Molly feel if like someone you love so much is in your life? He brought up Night Eyes in a sense. If Molly knew you were witted and had that relationship with Night Eyes, would she accept that? And Fitz didn't know, and I was like, yeah, well, this is a red flag. And I was like, I don't know if you guys are perfect for it. She doesn't even know you're witted.
That's not an issue anymore. Rest in peace, Nice.
Let's let's just give any final thoughts we have. Anything we missed?
I got something kind of in the same topic.
Yeah.
One thing is I very much wish that Fitz would have became more of a friend to Nettle by the end.
Yeah.
I hope that develops in the Fitz and the Fool trilogy. That's like one of the main things I'm looking for. She obviously treasured his friendship when he was Shadow Wolf, and I feel like after meeting Nettle, he put way more effort into courting Molly again than anything with Nettle. And obviously, Hobb maybe just didn't want to touch that yet. Didn't feel like that's like a whole nother arc, so you can't just throw that into the end of the book. But that's something like if the series were to end here, I'd be like, wow, I really wanted to see more of that.
Right. That was something I didn't like being fast tracked because I feel like her life and their relationship got fast tracked in that epilogue where it's like, yeah, we're kind of on good terms now. We travel back and forth. She took over patient, or I don't know where she lives now, but
Withy Woods.
Wizzy Woods. Yeah. So that stuff, I'm like, man, that like Nettle's like probably one of probably my favorite character of this, other than like Fitz in this trilogy. Like I loved her.
She's great, and Nettle, she like makes her feelings apparent too to Fitz.
Right.
And Fitz is just like, yeah, not good with women's feelings. Like, come on, bro. Like, you obviously have so much more room to grow as a person if that's just what you're saying to your daughter. Like,
like their
you're so
dynamic,
wrong.
I thought was the strongest, and I wish that was built on more.
Yep.
I'd love to say that they were the same emotional age, but I think Nettle is actually older.
Yeah, exactly. Like, she's speaking her mind in a mature manner on a mature topic. That's more than Fitz has ever done. Probably.
Yep. Any last thoughts or anything we missed? I got a few little things, but anything you want to bring up?
I just have like, I guess the only thing I have left is like end of Realm of Elderlings prediction.
Ooh.
That's like based on this book in a way.
All right. Hold that one sec. I just want to bring up a couple. I know I know you guys don't like him, but I'm going to stick up for my guy. We learn more about Hap.
The otter.
The otter. No, Hap. I mean, he's got a happy ending. He
did.
He's now a what do they call it? What Starling was, a minstrel.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
He decided to take the minstrel life, and I thought that was. I actually really like that ending because it shows like as a parent, you're always going to worry that your kid's going to be okay, and like you need to guide him. You need to do this. And you can look at it into this world where you got to go to school, get your education, find a good job, whatever. And for the most part, our children will be okay. They're going to find what they want, and ultimately, this is what made him happy. Just being a minstrel, he's good at it. He got accepted by someone who is going to teach him, and he's essentially an intern. Essentially, what he wanted to do at the start of the book, but just in a whole different
An
field.
apprentice that doesn't just carry around wood.
Yeah, but he found that that's just something he thought he would like, and he was young, but he'd never lived anything. And when he got into the real town, and he found something he actually liked, and I thought that was really cool. I know he doesn't get the best moments in this book, but
Don't
I
lock
really
in your majors at 12, folks.
That's right. So I thought that was cool that that happened for Hap, and it's nice for Fitz that he because he kind of really shafted Hap there. He kind of left his steps, left him behind for most of the series.
Yeah.
So thank God he turned out okay.
Hap got his one mention this episode. Good job, Hap. You made it. You made it in the episode.
And Starling got pregnant, so there's that bit gone.
She's
Oh,
now
yeah.
pregnant. Yep. She
So her.
That thread tied off.
told Fitz, "Stay away from me, dude. Can't be
Yep.
seen with you anymore, man." I'm preggers.
Which you know what? I'm glad that Starling was the one who had to cut herself out of Fitz's life.
Yeah.
She's gonna do something wild, like name the kid Fitz or something like that, just because she's weirdly toxic. Like that.
She is very, very toxic.
Needs to have that link with him somehow. Yeah, I think that's all I got, other than just the amount of children that who Swift had afterwards. He like became a father and like moved away. I'm like, did he just turn 40 in like 22 pages?
Pretty much. Pretty much.
So, very jarring.
You kill a dragon, you get the ladies.
I want to know how old Fitz is going to be at the end of all of these books. Is Fitz going to be like 400?
He could, probably could.
I'm just going by cover art, which is never reliable. I think I saw gray. I don't know.
Yeah, but what is gray in a skill master?
And with Fitz, with how stressed he's been in his life, come on.
He can come back from the dead.
It's got newfound information. That's true. I'm curious. I guess we can get into predictions for an update for the readers. Me and Sean, or for the listeners, me and Sean have read what's the dragon?
Rainwild.
The Rainwild Chronicles, and Kip is not. So we just need to read one last trilogy. Kip is still got 7 books to go.
You almost called him Fitz there.
I wouldn't be an episode if I didn't call Kip Fitz. Hey, that's a compliment now. He's full. He's whole.
Yeah, I still think I can do better.
Yeah, definitely. We all can. All right,
Hey.
Sean, what predictions do you have going forward?
Sure. One not prediction. It's just something I'm hyped for. Like how many people, sheer numbers will form coteries and Buckkeep. Very interesting dynamic that could come into play there. Prediction wise, I think end of Realm of Elderlings, the Fitz and the Fool become a dragon together.
Ooh.
And maybe they live in the skill current. But I think there's a lot to be said in the series about how they're kind of like two sides of the same coin, and I think that's going to come to fruition to some extent.
I don't think they become a dragon together, but I do think they enter the skill pillars together, and then just never return.
I'm just curious what they're going to do in the next trilogy. Now that they have no prophecy, are they just going to hang out? What's their journey? Is the pale woman? Did she get prosthetic arms and she's back? I just don't.
They gotta go talk some sense into a magic school.
I do think that, yeah, I definitely think they're going back to the Fool's hometown. I feel like we're going to see that.
That'd be great.
That whole area. I guess this is more smaller scale, but I've been thinking of it ever since, I guess, what's the first book? Fool's
Assassin.
Sorry, the first Tawny
Fool's
Man.
Errand.
Yeah, Fool's Errand. Is Fitz gonna bond with another wood animal?
Oh man, I can't. I'm not emotionally ready for that.
I think he will.
A dragon maybe.
I think it's really interesting that if that happens, and just because I feel like that's still one thing that is unsettled with Fitz, is him dealing with Night Eye's loss. I just don't think he dealt with it fully.
Him not dealing with Night Eye's loss.
Right.
Him saying, "Oh no, Night Eye's died. Part of me died. It will never come back."
Yeah. Or that he's I don't know.
No point in moving on. No point in trying to find happiness in the now. No, must live in grief for the past.
I don't think he'll ever directly confront that unless he meets someone else that he might bond with or form a relation with the wit.
That's fine. He surrounds himself with pushy people.
That's what I'm looking forward to. That's what I would look forward to in the next trilogy. And I think, I'm pretty sure he made love to Molly, so I would be surprised if he has another child with Molly. Parenthood is a big thing with Hobb. I don't know. I just I don't see him not being another pet because everyone else is going to be like an adult. They have 401ks.
Yeah, I mean,
all those other kids.
We're gonna have a lot of daddy Fitz in that last trilogy. It's gonna be a main theme, I'm sure.
granddaddy Fitz.
Probably.
He's gonna have to balance the needs of one child against the needs of another one.
Is Chade going to still be alive? How old is he? Like
He's
120?
got to be. He's never going to die. He
Never
didn't die
gonna.
in this trilogy. He's going to go in for the long haul.
You want to talk about someone who wants to become a dragon?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I would love that, actually.
That'd be cool.
He is the attitude for a dragon.
Also, the history and the lineage.
Every day he's reading those scrolls, no doubt about it. They didn't even mention that, but he was just in this space. Just
I was so mad when Fitz didn't kill the Pale Woman because of those scrolls.
Yeah.
I was like, she's
Same.
gonna destroy it. We've walked past how much evidence that she regularly defaces things in order to erase history. Like,
she's got no more hands. What's she gonna do? Stop them?
burn them.
What? How's she gonna light a match?
I don't know, one of the many magical like glowing orb things, or I don't know, a fire somewhere.
I don't know. You should put your hands in your sleeves and make your elbows stick out. See if you can do anything like that. It's hard. It's disability. She's essentially disabled.
I thought she was gonna like throw in like the latrine or the privy or something, or I don't know. There was lamp oil. She just never quite managed to ignite it. Like she was one step away from destroying that whole library.
I don't know. She looked beaten. I guess she could use the skill. She could get out, right? Use the skill pillar. I don't know. She was manic at the end there.
I hope that the stone map that they found underneath the skill pillar is going to come up in future books. You're going to find more Elderling cities, more ways that the world used to be before it got flooded.
Yeah, I was going to ask. Not really fair to Kip, but I was going to ask if we see any live ship people in the last trilogy, but
I mean, probably. We saw them in this trilogy. I can't imagine they're just. Tintaglia is not going away.
That's true. That's true. All right. I think we did it, guys.
Should we commit or not commit to Rainwilds for our listeners? Or do we leave it open?
I'd do it.
Oh God, rereading those.
I'd probably do them.
Yeah, I'll probably do it. Give me time. I need space. I need space.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. They're shorter. That is a nice thing. Those books are shorter than the everything else she's written. So, for better and worse. Yeah, we probably
like
will.
Those books.
Yeah, it's your hot take. I like them. They're fine. They're fine.
Yeah.
I have no opinion on them.
Yeah. Well, now we have to. We're all I mean, they know my opinion, Sean's. Now we need Kip's. All right, guys. This was great. I love it. Actually, so did we rank this trilogy with the other ones?
Ratings.
No, we give no ratings.
They're all great.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a 5-star man. I don't know what to tell you. This is probably my favorite. I don't know if it's my favorite Hobb book, but it's top 2. Maybe probably Mad Ship for me is 1, but
5-star Hobb book.
Yeah.
Like it's not perfect, but I think it's above 4.5.
Yeah, too much thick torture on the ship. Got to cut that down in half.
I really had the biggest problem with the epilogues.
Oh, it's always the end of these books for you, kid.
Yeah. It's the rapid time skips that like just get glossed over.
You didn't do that in the Farseer, right? It was mostly him just looking.
Yeah, no, I don't think that happened in Farseer. No,
being devastated.
Actually, all alone.
It didn't end with him in that cabin with Night Eyes.
Like, it like jumped ahead a bit, and it was like, I'm older now. Night Eyes is at my feet. I'm doing some writing.
So it does. Yeah, she always likes these jumps. It's very or whatever.
That one felt more classic for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But like Casanova writing his memoirs.
I'm going to pretend like I understood that reference, and that's good. All right. Thank you, Craig, for letting us play in his sandbox. Thank you for Horizon Brave for starting this whole thing. Thank you to Jingle Punks by Galactic Damages. Is that backwards?
Backwards.
Thank you to Galactic Damages for the song Jingle Punks. jingle.
Oh yeah.
I need to write this down on a piece of paper and just read that
Our
one.
intro and outro music is Galactic Damages by the Jingle Punks.
And for Sean and Kip, I'm Yetti Beats. We'll see you for Rain Wilds, I feel like.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.